Good afternoon and welcome back to All for United. This is the Pride of All Europe podcast. And finally, after 55 years of absolute hurt, England have managed to beat Germany in a knockout tie. How good does that feel? Well, my guests are going to tell you that today. With me today is John. How are you, pal?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Ben?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Also joining us is Harry. How are you, mate?
Very well, thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, pal. And all the way from Australia is a bit of dedication for you. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, very well. It was an enjoyable match for me as a neutral. We sort of no horse in the race for the Euros. I'm sure you guys are a little bit more sort of emotionally involved in that game, the England-Germany match. But yeah, very fun to watch.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to get stuck straight into this one because it's the big meaty topic, the England-Germany game. And as I said right at the start there, after 55 years of absolute hurt and pain and anguish of every knockout tournament we seem to come up against Germany over the last 55 years, it's always gone the Germans' way. So how good are you feeling today, John? Are you feeling over the moon? Are you still grounded with expectations, or is it now time to get a little bit excited as an England fan?
Well, I've been quite grounded. I won't lie, since Gareth Southgate took over the job, I've never really been that much inclined towards him. But you sort of got to put some respect on his name for what he achieved yesterday. Granted, I thought it might have been just a 1-0 nicket, but the fact that we did take the second goal and seal the deal with Harry Kane, which he needed to be pushed a bit further himself. It's maybe not getting to that point where we can be overexcited, but we can at least believe. I'm not going to say it's coming home just yet, but it's almost home. Couple more games and we should be there. It'd just be a harder final, I think, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it me? I have to explain now why I have a Schweinsteiger shirt in the background, because I know this comes up every time. For those that you don't know, that I am half English and half German. I've got a German mum and an English dad, so I've got England here as well. And I'm not a very big international football fan, as people might know me. I am all Man United. International football usually bores the pants off me until these sort of competitions, and then I sort of sit on the fence and support whoever. So I'm not the biggest England fan in the world, as people that might know me will know. People that don't know me, well, you know now. But I feel the English people's pride. I feel people that follow the English football team up and down the country, all around the world. I feel how happy you are, Harry. Is it coming home, mate? Is it coming home?
Listen, there's every chance. I mean, what I will say, fair play to Gareth Southgate, is that I do think he seems to understand what tournament football, international tournament football requires. So, and I've been guilty of this in the past. You want to see certain players play, you want to see a certain style play sometimes, but the international football, generally speaking, the teams that do the best, or the countries that do the best, is kind of the pragmatic, that kind of style of football where you keep it very tight, you win certain moments, and at the moment, England arguably look the best country at doing that. Now, obviously, they've got a bit of a clearer road now to the final. Not easy, but clearer. Obviously, if they do get to the final, they'll be meeting, I'm sure, a very, very tough side. So I'm not going to say it's coming home just yet, but listen, there's every opportunity, definitely.
Absolutely. Now, Tom, I know you just said there you're a bit of a neutral on this. How have you been rating England's performances so far in the tournament from a neutral's point of view?
When you compare it to the other nations, I think, just have a look at the ladder. Not the ladder, but the sort of the tournament tree, and they're still in the tournament, and a lot of big countries aren't in the tournament. So while some of the performances, I thought, especially against Scotland, they were poor. I thought the Croatia game, well, good enough. They're a little bit flat. But I thought, overall, they're still in the tournament, and big countries like the favourites, like France, like Germany, like Portugal, they're not there anymore. So while I'm a little bit sort of not too excited about their level of performance, you can't knock it. Tournament football is about winning. At the moment, England are winning, and you can't knock that. And I think the big thing for them is that Harry Kane goal at the end. Not only that gives Harry Kane some confidence, I think that really gives the team some confidence now that they know they can be playing whatever happens. They know their main man is likely to maybe potentially grab a goal for them now. So is it coming home or going home? I'm not quite sure, but England are definitely, you've got to put them as potentially favourites now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a few people have been singing Gareth Southgate's praises, but listen to 5 Live again, as I always do, because I get kind of bored at work sometimes. So strap on 5 Live. Gareth Southgate does seem to have his, as well as his supporters and his fans that say he's done a fantastic job. There is quite a lot there that's still saying he's not the man for the job. He's playing boring football. But John, surely these 1-0s that he did earlier on in the group stage, and this 2-0 win against Germany, England are still not conceding a goal in this tournament. Surely the fact that England are not conceding goals, yes, they're not probably playing the energetic, all-out attacking football that some fans want to see, but surely England are still getting the results. The clean sheet, the fact that the clean sheets, Jordan Pickford's not been beaten once so far in this tournament. As we go into the quarters, surely that stands England in good stead.
Yeah, 100%. If this was Italy or any other team doing this, then they would be saying that they're like the next coming of God. Honestly, they're doing the job. I haven't been a massive advocate of Gareth Southgate's style of play, his choice of players that he's chosen. It's been a frustration watching 1-0 wins, but to be honest with you, it doesn't matter if you go all the tournament with 1-0 wins. You win the tournament. The main thing is he's making us hard to score against, and you maybe don't win games by being hard to score against, but you help yourself to win a game. I think Fergie said it best, where your attack wins your games, but your defense wins your titles. Now, I see that exact same sort of principle coming into the way that Gareth Southgate is setting his team up. Now, again, I think I would have chosen Grealish to start the game. I would have probably started Jadon Sancho over Saka, when he turned around and said that he wasn't choosing Jadon Sancho due to experience, yet he then chooses Saka, which has even less experience, baffled me and sort of really annoyed me to an extent. But then, of course, he then went and beat the Germans, and yeah, it's been you have to put a sort of bit of respect on his name, at least, because many a manager have tried to beat the Germans in this 55 years and have failed. So yeah, it's a difficult one to answer in the long run. We've got to hopefully see it out to the final, and if we get, say, Italy, Belgium, or Spain in that final, then we just have to do what we have been doing, carry on being hard to beat. Maybe that's the partnership of Harry Maguire and John Stones. Maybe it's the fact that we've got a decent CDM in the middle with Declan Rice. Could be many things, but 5 at the back seemed to work against Germany when I think 99.9% of Twitter fell off when they seen that they had five defenders, 2 holding midfielders, and only 3 3 attacking players on the pitch. So I can understand in certain, the scale. So it's very hard. I want us to do well, because of course I'm being English and patriotic. I want us to win, but realistically, I've never seen that in my entire life. I've been heartbroken. Like, a lot of people were having a joke about that young girl crying on the TV, and I just remember being in '96 crying my eyes out watching Gareth Southgate miss that penalty. So I feel her pain, and I've been there, and I'm hoping that we can stop that pain and stop that crying and finally come out with something and say that we've been decent enough to win a competition, even if it is the easier side of the draw.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Listen, I was part of the Euro 96 was my first proper footballing tournament. And I remember I was born in '87, so Euro 96, I was the right age, and I was crying like a child when we went out to Germany. See, I just got disillusioned with the England team as years went by, but we won't get into that. But I felt your pain, and I felt that girl's pain as well, and I felt social media was a little bit rough on the poor girl, bit ruthless on her, yeah. Harry, coming to you, mate. I'll keep with the Southgate thing. Do you think he deserves more praise than what he gets sometimes? I know in the media he gets plenty of praise, and he's getting plenty of praise for amongst most of the general England fans. But there are, as I said, there are some out there that are grumbling about the way he approaches games, his tactics, maybe his lack of substitutions as well. Like where we've heard this one before, by the way, with the substitutions and lack of substitutions and etc. etc. What do you feel? How do you feel about Gareth Southgate? Do people need to lay off him a little bit, mate?
Yeah, I think so, because I understand, look, from a fan's perspective, they want to see certain things, especially when you've got as many attacking talents as England do have. But the problem is that international football is very, very different to club football, especially when England as a nation, throughout the age groups, they don't really have a set identity or a way of playing. So there's no real consistency. You'll have the likes of Jadon Sancho that plays in a completely different style to a Raheem Sterling, who plays in a different style to Jack Grealish, for example. Just putting those names out there. Whereas when you look at someone like Spain, every coach, every player kind of adheres to the same kind of way of playing. So it's easier for them to play a certain style of football. Whereas if you're an international manager, very difficult to implement your ideas, because how often are you with those groups of players? You're with them, 3-4 times a year for no more than 2 weeks at a time, except for international tournaments. The squad is always changing. So it's very difficult to get certain ideas and certain styles and attacking ways of playing across. The easier way to set up a team, especially for international football, is to be a bit more pragmatic, make sure you're solid, make sure you're disciplined, easier to put across, and then sort of trust yourself to find those moments where it counts. And when you do look at England's attacking players, they do have those players that, as long as they remain solid and as long as they remain disciplined, you do back that England side have enough in them to, when it does come to crunch time, there is the quality to make it count. So yeah, I think people do need to lay off him. Like we said, like, international football is very different to club football. And I'll be honest, I've criticised what he's done in the past, but fair play. I think he's proving me wrong and everyone wrong. And obviously, if they don't at least get to the final, it'll probably be seen as a disappointment. But listen, as of now, you can't really knock it.
Absolutely. Coming to you, Tom. Once again, as an outsider, surely you can see the fruits of what Southgate's doing, and as a Manchester United fan, as I said, try hinting on, we've been used to this sort of with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in a way. People question his tactics, questioning substitutions. As an Australian, how do you see that Gareth Southgate, and how do you see Gareth Southgate set up with England? Do you think it's spot on? Do you think he needs to be doing a little bit more, or how do you think overall he's been doing for England?
Yeah, look, it's a tough one, but I think it goes down to, it's a results-based business, and he's getting results at the moment at the business end of, let's say, the season, which is the Euro 2020 tournament. And I look at it and think, you go through some teams, whether it be a club team or a national team, and it sometimes picks itself. But with the England team, I think every single fan around the country and around the world has a different opinion of what the starting 11 should be. Now, you're going to piss off half the nation with that, because is it Rice and Phillips in the middle? Is it Henderson? Is it Saka or Rashford? Is it Greenwood or is it Grealish or Foden? Harry Kane's position came into question, etc. Is it a back three? Do you want to play Kyle Walker in the centre back, or do you want to play him at right back? There is no right answer. We're all sort of geniuses in hindsight. And I look at it and think, when we cast our mind back to the way Solskjaer goes about it as well, I look back at when I used to play football, and I've never come off the pitch after a loss and said, look, that was the manager's fault, we didn't win that. I think Man United players in the past have maybe felt guilty of this, and maybe a case England in the past as well. They're almost getting to the stage where it's very easy to shift the blame on the manager. But every single player on a football pitch never comes off the pitch and says, that was his fault. Players need to take responsibility. And at the moment, England players are doing that. But I feel the manager doesn't win the games out there. The players have to go and win the games. So, look, I'll definitely criticise Southgate for some of his decisions, but I think the criticism, while I'm not a huge fan of him, is probably a little bit over the top, especially when you do consider they're in the quarterfinals, and a lot of people probably didn't have them making the quarterfinals. As big as the hype has been around England, I think you do think, well, if they do come up against a Germany in the round of 16, they'll very likely go out. However, they're still in there, so you have to give him credit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And on players, though, from a United's point of view, John, how good were Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire yesterday? Because I think they're absolutely top. Especially Harry Maguire playing little football as he has when, of course, he got injured before the Europa League final and everything for United. He's coming to this tournament playing little or no football compared to someone like John Stones, for example. And he's slotted back in like he's not being out, you know. And Luke Shaw, though, keeps going to strength to strength to strength. He's getting better and better every time I see him. And I said yesterday, I thought Luke Shaw was man of the match. Although I know Harry Maguire got star of the match, I think they call it, isn't it? Harry Maguire got it. But how impressed have you been with the United duo there last night?
Well, it's a refreshing thing to say. Well, I say refreshing. We've seen it pretty much all season, haven't we? Where the partnership really between them two have got better. And I feel that maybe someone like Jose Mourinho had probably heart exploded as soon as they seen that Luke Shaw had another epic performance. Now, of course, Sky themselves decided to make some clicks up about them and saying that they weren't even like sixes. Well, they were sixes compared to everybody else, which was shocking to see. Of course, I'm guessing because Manchester United fans will be a bit biased towards them, that they'll give them probably a 10 out of 10. But, you know, Harry Maguire was solid. He didn't, as you said, didn't seem like he's even had time away from the game. But maybe that time away from the game has given him some chance to recoup in his mind, recoup in his body. And he does look up for it. Luke Shaw, he's probably fueled by the negativity that's been spouted about him. And he wants to prove everybody else wrong. And coming out, doing your job because you're a defender. Harry Maguire getting a clean sheet. That's what he's about. Luke Shaw being a left back / left wing back. He wants to get up the pitch and get assists for players that are attacking, which he did. And I think it was just good to see, because it just means that when it comes to getting back to club football, that the feeling will be good, and they'll want to carry on that sort of performances when wearing the kit, you know, the badge. So hopefully they can go out and finish the job and become European champions and say that we did it. And then they could take that into club football, which will give so much confidence towards it. Maybe Rashford as well. And if we do sign Jadon Sancho, who knows? Like, I think it's a possibility. If I'm going to say like out of 10 that we could go out and win the Euros, I'll probably say now after beating Germany, an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a pretty good score. I'd go for that, 8.5 out of 10. That's a pretty decent one for me. Harry, sticking with the Shaw Maguire question, mate. How impressed have you been with Shaw Maguire last night, especially Luke Shaw as well? His performances over this whole of last season and going into the Euros, I think he's been possibly probably the best left back in Europe. But I don't know what your opinion is on that.
Fantastic. I think Shaw's been superb this year. And someone like Harry Maguire, I think it's the modern day age of like football Twitter or whatever, where certain players have made a meme or made a scapegoat or like for stupid reasons. Harry Maguire's always been a fantastic centre-back, and he's one of those players as well that you really notice him when he's not there. And he's been superb. And both of them last night were outstanding. Shaw's positivity, I think his variety as a left back, that he can come infield, he can go on the outside, very good technical footballer, he can stride with the ball, he's got so much to his game, and fair play to him. You know, I was a huge fan of his at Southampton. Obviously, you know, the move to Man United didn't work initially, but that's the way it goes sometimes. You know, there are so many tangibles that go into being a successful footballer, but I'm delighted for him that he's now, you know, showing how good he is. And again, Harry Maguire, another superb centre back. And I actually like Tyrone Mings, but I don't think they could have won the Euros with a Stones Mings partnership. I think that Maguire and Stones, I think there's a possibility. But yeah, both of them last night, outstanding. Really, really good.
Absolutely. Tom, coming to you on that point about Tyrone Mings, is it now set in stone now that this is going to be a Maguire-Stones partnership now for the rest of the tournament, and Tyrone Mings is a backup? And also, what do you make of Luke Shaw as well? Because for me, as I said, I think he's the best left back in Europe. I won't go as far as saying the world just yet, but definitely in European football, for me, he's the best left back. And I'll probably get shot to pieces for saying it. But what's your thoughts, pal?
Well, just firstly on Luke Shaw, look, I completely agree. Whether Europe, I think that's what that one's up for debate, but especially in England, and he's rightly the English left back, and you have to give him full praise for that. But not only in terms of his performances, but I think from a mental side of things, in looking what he has had to deal with, especially with Jose Mourinho in sort of this public spat, he's had to deal with that. So there's a lot of pressure on him after he came out, and there was I had a little bit of hesitancy the way he responded to Jose Mourinho. I was thinking, well, should he really get involved in that? Because suddenly, if you make a mistake and Germany win 1-0, Jose Mourinho will be first to ring up TalkSport and give his opinion on Luke Shaw's performance. So he's dealing very well with the pressure and obviously his performances. Without that assist, you don't know how the game pans out. So, yeah, full of praise for Luke Shaw, and I think he's fully deserving of it. And just on Harry Maguire, I wouldn't say I'm shocked, but I'm quite surprised at how good he has been, because usually England have this player before a tournament who's injured, and there's this rush back. Was it David Beckham's metatarsal, Rooney's metatarsal? Now it's Harry Maguire's ankle. Is he going to be fit for the Euros in this big tournament? And then it comes back to the case where, he's fit, he's available, but he hasn't been playing. And Harry Maguire is the type, I don't know if this is a lazy argument, but Harry Maguire is the type of sort of almost body type you'd think, or it might take him a few games to get going, because we've never seen him have to come back from an injury at United, because he's always been fit. So we don't know, does it take him a while to get going? And I thought maybe it is. He's a big guy. Maybe it will take him a couple of games, but he's hit the ground running, and it looks like he's never been injured. And he has to take full credit to that, because you just look at the stats in terms of England haven't been conceding goals. It is a big part of winning a tournament, and he's now down that spot next to John Stones, and rightly so. It's nothing against Tyrone Mings, but I think there's a big difference, between Harry Maguire and Tyrone Mings. So Maguire's in there now, and you look at his performances, he's a crucial part of that team. And if they are to win the Euros, he's going to be almost the main man for them, I think, because they are going to come up against a team eventually, let's say a Belgium or an Italy, who do start to pepper the back four. You do look at how many chances did Germany have? Really, 2, 3 maybe, sort of thing, like good chances. I think they'll be under sort of much more pressure against other teams, and Harry Maguire's going to have to stand up, but he's proven that he will at the moment, and I'd love to see it.
Absolutely. I love seeing all United players do well across international tournaments when there is the World Cups and Euros on. So it's just great that Harry Maguire has come back and slotted in seamlessly, like you all said, he's never been away really. And Luke Shaw, I've sang his praises so much now. I want to talk about Germany though, because Germany. Did they just seem a bit of a damp squid, really? John, was you impressed with the Germans? Because fair enough, they beat Portugal. Was it 4-2 earlier on in the tournament? But they're not really set the world alight. I think this German side's coming towards its end. When you think about your Hummels and your Müllers, Neuer's probably got one more World Cup in it, and that's probably him. Do you think the Germans are like rebuilding in that phase of a rebuild? Because I don't know, it just seemed a proper damp sort of performance, with the exception of the first 10 minutes where Germany seemed to be on it. What was your take on Germany, mate?
Well, after seeing some of the world class German sides in the years, this does look like a fizzled out, maybe, as you say, a damp squid sort of team. Now, I wouldn't ever say that I'm an expert on the German side. I've only seen them ever knock out England, and when they're done, I have cried like a... Yeah, anyway, it's a difficult one. I think with Hansi Flick coming in as well, it's going to be a new era of football. A new manager brings in a new breath of fresh air, and maybe he will get rid of Hummels, and he may get rid of, discarding them, but he may go with a more youthful squad, and But then again, would you rather have Muller up front or Timo Werner? Right now, I probably would still go with Muller. You know, he's more proven than what Timo's done. Defenders wise, I don't know. It's a difficult one because I think Hummels has been a very good servant for them in the German backline. Goretzka was all right. Yes, it isn't the same team, definitely not, because even though they beat Portugal, didn't they only score 1 goal against them, to be fair? Rule changes as well. I think if this was years ago, there'd have only been 2 teams proceeding from this group. So a lot of things do have a factor into it. I know they finished second, so I know they did actually go through legitimately in that sense. But I think there's going to be another change because obviously the German manager, I can't think of his name now.
Joachim Low.
That's the one. He's on his way. He's gone now, hasn't he? So his contract's up. He's going to be relinquished, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be an interesting one because Hansi Flick at Munich was a really good manager. So it'll be an interesting one. Next World Cup was that next year? Actually, come to think about it.
Yeah, isn't it? In the winter, isn't it? So yeah.
Wow.
Well, we'll see. Harry, I believe you're a coach. So on a coaching point of view, what have you made of Joachim Low over the last couple of tournaments? It's not really worked for Germany. It's not been the classic sort of well-drilled German side that, the well-drilled, well-oiled German machine, really, has it? What have you made of Joachim Low over the last couple of years? Do you feel it's the right time for him to step down, as he has now stepped down as German manager?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's been there since. I mean, when was he there? Was he hired after the 2006 World Cup? I think something like that. So yeah, he's been there a long, long time. I can't think of too many international managers that actually last that long. So I guess it's different. I don't know. If you have the same person at club football for too long, and obviously you guys so exposed is different, but that's because he kept freshening up with players and staff, etc. But maybe there's just that situation where it got a bit stale. And it needed it just needs a reboot. But I'm very confident. There's so many talented players in that German squad, and the ones that aren't in the German squad and coming through. I'm very confident that with Hansi Flick, that they'll have that refresh. That it's all in football. It's never as bad as it seems, and it's never as good as it seems. And it won't take too much for the Germans to get back to that, that feared nation. I mean, they are still feared anyway, but you know what I mean. It won't take too much for them to get back to that, I don't think. Well, I think it could just be a situation where it got a little bit stale and they just needed a bit of a reboot and a refresh. And they'll have that now, and I'm very confident that they'll be up there with the favourites for the next World Cup with Hansi Flick and fresh ideas, or a freshening up at least.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So if I come to you, mate, on Germany, will they bounce back quite quickly under Hansi Flick, or do you expect this to be a little bit of a rebuild where it might take them a couple of tournaments to get somewhere back to being the German that we all know, where they're always thereabouts in the latter stages of the competitions?
Yeah, they've probably got all the tools to bounce straight back, but it's so hard with an international tournament because, France are the world champions. You'd assume they'll still be at the top, but they've gone out already. So I think it's so hard to gauge when it's not a course over a season where you can sort of balance yourself out over 38 games. It's got a cutthroat. It's 3 almost cup finals straight away. And you could just have an off day and you're out of the tournament. That sort of happens, and then suddenly all the knives are out on the manager. And you think, well, that's football. But if you do look at what the Germans have, some of the players they do have are very good and very, I don't want to say un-German-like, but 10 years ago you wouldn't have sort of predicted a Havertz or a Werner or a Gnabry type of player in the German team. They're sort of very exciting young players. And look, as bad as Werner has been and as bad as he is at times, he's almost so close. You almost think, well, 1 goal in a big game for him and it could change. Like he's a very good player in my opinion. Obviously, his shooting and long may continue while he's at Chelsea. Sort of be his downfall. But Havertz is starting to maybe get to grips with things, especially in England, especially since Tuchel came in. And players like Gnabry, I think, are very good. So they've got the tools to bounce straight back, but I think it's so hard to gauge in a tournament setting where Harry said when when players are coming together once or so maybe 2-3 times a season for 2 or 3 weeks here or there, it is just so hard in a results-based business. It's so hard to predict how it will go because, look, who would have picked Switzerland and Denmark and Czech Republic and Ukraine to still be in the latter stages of the Euros? You just wouldn't have picked that. But that is the nature of international football.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's so good about tournament football as well. It always could always chuck up a few surprises at you. And I'll move on to the Ukraine, actually, because that is England's next opponent in Rome on Saturday night, I believe, at 8 o'clock. John, have we got anything to be fearful from the Ukrainians? Or do you think it should be bread and butter for England? This should be England all over.
Well, you'd have thought that, but didn't we go out to Iceland?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah.
Sometimes when you get a little bit complacent, thinking that you can walk through to the next round, you trip yourself up. So that's the biggest fear that I have for England. Not that I think that we were rubbish enough to actually go out to Ukraine. We're not, but the mentality has to be there. The mentality has to be wanting to still win that game because they want to be ruthless. Even if it is a 1-0 or a 2-0, I'm not bothered about the scoreline. I'm not turning around thinking, right, well, because it's Ukraine, we should be winning 4-0 or, it's not about that because these are a cagey affair. We just got to not be complacent. I feel that we should win it. Like, if I have a percentage-wise for that, I'd probably say about 90% sure that we'll win that game. It's just that, again, that 10% chance that if we do just think that we're going to win it and we don't turn up like we're going to win it, then we could lose it. And that's the fear of anything. Who's the manager there? Shevchenko?
Yeah, Shevchenko, mate, yeah.
Yeah, he was a good player when he was back in the day. So he's got that mentality. He's got that rough mentality. So he probably is instilling that into his players as well. So, of course, they must be doing because they're not into the knockout stages for nothing. So maybe it's going to be a little test that we can overcome, which probably a good next step for that. So, apologies, get a phone call. Good timing, eh?
Yeah, all right, mate.
That's using my phone, so yeah, it's a difficult one. That it's that sense where if we've got the talent to do it, and maybe he does a rotational squad, so he's more fresher for the next round. You never know. Rashford and Sancho might get a start.
Maybe, mate. I'll chuck that question to Harry then. Harry, how do we feel about Ukraine? Are you confident going to this one? And do you expect Southgate to make many changes, if any changes at all?
Yeah, I mean, I do like the look of Ukraine. They look really well coached by Shevchenko. They've got some good players. They've got clear ideas on how they want to build, progress the ball, create chances. But the players seem to have a bit of freedom as well. It looks like a really well coached side, and they will be a big threat. And England have to be careful. But what I will say, and this is fair play to Southgate in this current crop of players, I don't think they're going to underestimate anyone, and I think they're going to play the proper game of football they need to play. I do think there will be some changes. I think Gareth Southgate has proven that he's happy to make adjustments depending on the opposition, which again is required, I guess, for tournament football, international. So I do think there'll be changes. I don't think you can expect to see free-flowing attacking football. That's not going to happen, and that's okay. There will still be airs of pragmatism, but I don't think it will be quite as many defensive players per se as there was yesterday. Whoever the extra man is to start, I'm not too sure. I'll be surprised if Jack Grealish doesn't start. Mount might come back in. So I do think he'll make some adjustments. It won't be free-flowing attacking football, and that's okay just because it's, supposed to be a smaller nation or not as good doesn't mean that you have to completely dominate them and be free-flowing and attacking. As much as England fans and the nation wants to see that, they're still a big threat. They're a very good side. They're in the quarters for a reason. So yeah, there'll be changes, I'm sure, but it won't be free-flowing. And like I said, that's okay. But I do expect England to win. I just think it's geared up for them to go and sort of, beat the Germans and beat the Ukrainians and go from there.
Absolutely, mate. I'll come to you, Tom. what's your feelings on Ukraine? And also, the thing we haven't factored in yet is will Phil Foden and Mason Mount come back into this team? Do you feel, or do you think Gareth might stick with what he had against Germany there? Because why change something? Why change something it's not broke? If you know what I mean. So, but because they were missing through, because they had to self-isolate because of the Scottish player that had COVID and everything, does Mason Mount and does do they both walk straight back into this team, or do you expect Southgate to maybe integrate them back in slowly?
It's a tough one. I think there will be changes, as the lads have said. However, I don't think the changes will, if I was a manager, wouldn't be with the next round in mind. It would solely be, okay, he's made changes for Germany to deal with Germany's threat and how they can counteract that. I think that would be the same with Ukraine. He might change one or two, but I don't think with its a view to the semi-final and final in terms of fitness point of view. I think if he sees something in Ukraine he can exploit, or a danger in Ukraine he's worried about, I think that's where the change might come about. And whether that be Grealish, Foden, look, I'm not sure. As I said earlier in the stream, it's up for debate. There's no wrong answer, I think. The wrong answer is when you lose, but at the moment they're getting the right answer because they're winning. Look, I would bring Grealish in, even Foden. Look, I don't know your boys' opinion, but I thought he was okay in the first couple of games. He got a little bit of stick here or there. I think he does look dangerous. Grealish is the obvious one, but he is a player as well who can change a game. So you do have to think, especially in tournament football, when you could potentially have an extra 30 minutes. If it's tight with 70, 80 minutes on the clock and you're thinking about those substitutions, you have to think about a potential extra 30 minutes. And while I would start Jack Grealish from the start, if he is off the bench, he is a hell of an option to have off the bench. So in regards to changes, I would maybe make one or two personnel ones just from what I want to see, or if I was English, what I would want to see. But from Southgate's point of view, as you say, it's not broken at the moment, so there isn't much to fix.
Absolutely. Two players I do want to mention pretty quickly. The two players that scored the goals today, Sterling and Kane. Do you think now, John, that the pressure's off Harry Kane's shoulders, and we might see a bit more of a looser Harry Kane, if you know what I mean? One that's going to be a little bit better in front of goal. To be fair to Harry Kane, in my opinion, I don't think he's had many chances laid on a plate to him. Probably a couple where he should have buried, but not been really found very, very much inside what I call the 6-yard area, where Harry Kane's dangerous as anybody in the world. But do you think that's a huge weight lifted off his shoulders? He's finally got his goal in the tournament, and that will stand him in good stead going as we go forward into the latter stages.
Yeah, 100%. We all. I was very surprised he even got the goal yesterday because of the way that his form has sort of dwindled off. And like you said, he hasn't been given the chances. There is a danger area or a danger zone for Harry Kane where you don't want him to be on the last man. You don't want him to be in it's not the 6-yard box, but just like if you put a square where the 6-yard box would be and towards the penalty spot, like that box area there. Yeah. If you're putting a ball, you have to put a ball to him. You have to put the ball in front of him so we can just either, as he did with the goal, just advance towards it, and he will put it in the back of the net. He is a poacher in that sense, and Manchester United know poachers quite well, so we can see how he is actually dangerous. He hasn't been given the service that he probably does require to become, more goals to become. Well, he already is, but I mean, scoring the more goals that he wants to be scoring. I feel that he will have more confidence going into the next game, knowing that he has scored a goal, because I think if he had missed that, for example, then I think he would have been shot. It'd have been like, well, the only thing that I may be doing right now is knocking down my price for when it comes to the transfer out of Tottenham. So it's depending, of course, if we go past Ukraine and who we get next, if it's going to be Czech Republic or Denmark, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a couple more games, if that's ilk, where he hopefully will get some more goals. So then when it comes to the final, that he's going to be at his peak of his confidence, knowing that if someone puts the ball in front of him, he will just slap it in the back of the net. I feel that he sometimes now currently, I don't know whether it's because of playing in Tottenham now, but coming back like coming back into the midfield to pick a ball up. Like he did it yesterday in the game where he done that, and then he passed it on. Was it Kevin Phillips that was running on? And you could see that the massive gap that he had left by moving himself away from the striking area, which any defender will happily allow you to do. They don't, if you're not stood with them, they don't care really. They're not going to follow you all the way up to the midfield. They'll just allow the midfielders to deal with you. So I think that within time, give him against Ukraine, he might bag. I think he's going to bag a brace against Ukraine personally. Confidence being up for him.
John's going big there, bagging a brace against the Ukraine there for Harry Kane. Harry, coming to you, mate. Another player that gets a fair amount of criticism, maybe unfairly at times, is Raheem Sterling. But he's got 3 goals in this tournament so far for England. England's top goal scorer. What have you made of his performances overall?
Yeah, I mean, Sterling has some outstanding world-class qualities. He's a superb dribbler, got fantastic close control. And one thing that he's really developed since he's been with Peppermanti is his ability to time his arrivals into the box, into the danger areas for what looks like tap-ins, and they are tap-ins, but it's not a coincidence that he's so often the one in those positions to score. And he's produced the goods. And what more can you say? If we didn't have Raheem Sterling, it could have been someone else, but you can only look at the fact of the matter that he won England first. He won England versus Croatia, and he got the first goal against the Germans. Won England the game versus Czech Republic. So what more can you say for him? There are obviously weaknesses to his game as well with the player. There sometimes where his decision making is a bit off. If he's through on goal and he has time to think, I don't always back him to score. But like I said, there's weaknesses to every player, and he's a huge asset to what this England team require and need. That player that can run beyond the last line, can go 1v1 versus players, and arrive in those areas to finish from, the odd chance you get. So he's been superb for England, and he's of huge importance to this side. And it's not a coincidence that Gareth Southgate keeps picking him when you've also got other fantastic attacking talent, the likes of Jadon Sancho, Jack Grealish. It's not a coincidence, and it's not a surprise that Sterling is the one, as well as Kane, that is undroppable from those collection of players. So he's been superb, and I expect him to, or hopefully he carries on being so.
Absolutely. And Tom, if I come to you, the trust that Gareth Southgate shows to Harry Kane, his skipper, Raheem Sterling especially, two that always come under criticism from England fans in large portions. A lot of people are saying drop Harry Kane. He's not in form. He's not scoring. A lot of people have been calling for Jack Grealish to start. Whether it's Sterling that makes way for him, and then people, obviously, us as United fans, we've been crying out to see Jadon Sancho, and even the Germans themselves. Jurgen Klinsmann said yesterday for the BBC that the Germans are very, very surprised not seeing more of Jadon Sancho in this tournament because they really rate him so highly. What have you made of Sterling and Harry Kane as a neutral?
Yeah, ultimately, when you look at performances, you think probably not quite good enough. And there I am screaming at the TV, well, not screaming at the TV. As I said, no real connection with England. But I'm saying, take Sterling off. He's no good. It's not going to happen for Sterling. Next thing you know, the ball breaks to him and there's a goal. And that is ultimately what's going to keep him in the team, and rightly so. And Southgate has to trust that because it is getting him results. So, again, if I was picking a team from scratch and what I want to see from a performance, a player wouldn't pick Sterling. I would look for a Grealish. I would look Jadon Sancho, as you just mentioned there. He's almost the forgotten man. But I think on that right-hand side does add maybe a little bit more creativity. But, okay, creativity is one thing. Sterling's delivering the final product. And while I would, 50-50, get rid of Sterling in terms of starting lineup, as I said, Southgate is not going to do it. Harry Kane's not going to be dropped. And while you are winning football games, it's the right thing to do. You have to keep it the same. Sterling's, if he keeps scoring a few more goals, if he scores another goal in the quarter, maybe a semi-final or even a goal in the final, he's going to be the player of the tournament, and rightly so, because he's producing. It's all well and good whether you're going to perform in terms of a player rating, you're going to get a 6 or a 7 for your performance. but ultimately goals win games, and he's producing. So fair play to him. Not a huge fan of him, but you can't really knock him.
Absolutely, mate. A couple more things, and then we'll end the show. I wanted to sort of point out that Marcus Rashford's tweet. He said he was hacked, coincidentally, when someone asked, "Is Jadon Sancho coming to Manchester United?" The reply was yes, with a kiss. And then this morning he said, "Oh, he was hacked." Don't know who that was by, but John, coming to you, mate. Are we still confident of Jadon Sancho deal to be done at least after the Euros? You know, because obviously I can't see it being done and dusted before the Euros finish. England are now in that zone now. They're now in their latter stages where I think Gareth wants all his players on full concentration. But certainly after the Euros, I think as soon as it's done near enough, do you think that Jadon Sancho will be a Manchester United player?
Yeah, 100%. And it's not just because of the yes with the kiss, but you know, what was his password? Password 1. And Marcus Rashford at gmail.com. Come on, man. He hasn't been hacked. Clearly, he might have had a couple of bevies. He probably felt a little bit, you know, enjoying the moment. You've just beaten Germany. You know, I'm not saying that he has, but it just seems like that. And he's got a little bit giddy. And someone's asked him a question, and he's answered it. Like he only said he was going to confirm it. He didn't actually confirm it, did he? He goes, "Can we confirm Jadon Sancho?" And he went, "Yes, I can confirm it." But what are you confirming? That he's signed? He didn't say that he's signed. He's just confirming that maybe there is interest that we already knew for the last 2 seasons anyway. So what is he actually done? Even though then Fabrizio literally, as soon as he did the yes moment, that there was a tweet off Fabrizio saying that he knows. So, you know, it wasn't coming out of the blue anyway, to be fair, but we are watching this, and we're watching with intent. It's kind of got less and less each passing moment, because we think that it should have been done maybe last season, and we might have actually put City under a bit more pressure than we did do in the end, because we know ourselves that we attack mainly down the left. We haven't had a right winger since Valencia got dropped to right back, so you know, it is a necessity. Oh God, I can't say that word. It's needed. It's needed. Necessity. I got it. Yeah.
Absolutely, mate. Joe O'Neill from that channel that I do not want to mention. Congrats on winning the last 16 Championship of the World. He's Irish, before anybody, if anyone doesn't know who Joe is, but he used to be a former host on this show. He's turned traitor. No, I love you really, Joe. Nice to see the comments. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Harry, on Jadon Sancho, mate, from a coach's point of view, surely this is United have got to get this done and dusted as soon as possible. As I said, obviously Gareth Southgate want his players all fine-tuned in correct mental form for the last stage of this competition now, but surely that's got to get done and dusted as soon as the tournament's over.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I don't think there's any doubts about that now. Whether he's the right signing for you guys obviously remains to be seen. He's obviously got a huge amount of talent. I'm not sure he's the one I will spend that amount of money on, but you know, that's just my opinion, despite his talent. But listen, yeah, it's going to happen. And hopefully, you know, for you guys and, you know, for him as well, that he goes on and absolutely smashes it, because there's so much talent there. And yeah, no, it'd be great to see him in the Premier League. It'd be great to see him. He's been absolutely superb for so much of his time journey.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Tom, finally come to you about Jadon Sancho. I think it's as good as a done deal, mate. No need to panic or anything from anybody. But what qualities do you think you see him bringing to this Manchester United side once he does sign, and hopefully sooner rather than later? What kind of qualities do you think? Because the Germans have said absolutely rave about him, and I was talking to a German friend that I know on social media the other day, and they're absolutely confused. I think is the word I'll use, the polite word to use, that he's not in this England squad at all. He's hardly featured. He's only come off the bench once for a little cameo appearance. They're really scratching their heads at that one. What's your take on Jadon Sancho, mate?
Yeah, look, in terms of what he brings to United, I just think in one simple word, he's just going to bring quality. Because we've looked at so many games over the past years at United, 4 or 5 years. You look when we can't break a team down, you think, oh, we just lack that quality. The players aren't good enough. And Jadon Sancho, while we consider him, and he is definitely a winger, whether it be on the left or the right, he does play in that area of the pitch. He doesn't really play like a winger. He's very, very creative, and he does move with the ball like a winger, but he has that ability to go outside and go inside, and he has an eye for a pass. I think a lot of us get caught up the idea of a winger, almost whether it be inverted or just the old-fashioned get on the outside and whip a cross in, or if it's an inverted winger on the left, they cut in and have a shot. Well, Jadon Sancho obviously is able to do that. I think he's far more creative, and you cast your mind back at what I've said in terms of years and years of sort of frustration when you watch games at Old Trafford. We have lacked creativity, and I don't have the stats in front of him, but I know following his career, and when you see all the numbers pop up on Twitter, etc., he does have a lot of goal contributions in regards to those goals and the assists, and that's what United have lacked. So while I'm excited about the signing, it has bored me to tears in terms of the saga, how it has dragged on. I think it's dragged on for numerous reasons, but ultimately I think when England do get knocked out, or for your case, if they go on to win it, I think the next day Man United are coming out with an announcement. I think they're just waiting for it now. I think if they do announce something huge like this now, which it would be, that does, I wouldn't say ruffle feathers in the England camp, but it does sort of take a lot of publicity away from England. And I'm sure there's maybe 1 or 2 contracts they don't want to sort of tamper with, or sort of relationships they don't want to sort of burn. So I think they're just waiting for England sort of to be out of the news, and then United will drop the big news.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. That's the way I think it is. But you're right, though. It has bored me to absolute tears, boys. This transfer saga. But it's just one of those, boys. It's just one of those, I'm afraid. John, finally to end the show, I'm going to get a couple. I'm going to get predictions for you from the England-Ukraine game, and are we all feeling confident or not? So I'm going to test your confidence in this England side. What scoreline are you predicting for Saturday, buddy? I'm
going to go with 3-0.
Go 3-0, mate.
Yeah, because I've already said that Harry Kane's going to get a brace. So
well, yeah, you did.
So I feel that he's going to score a brace, and Sterling will score his next goal, and maybe Luke Shaw for a couple of assists, and Harry Maguire with another star of the match, or man of the match, or person of the match, whatever it's called these days.
Yeah, I know. I keep saying man of the match. It's a star of the match, Ben. Well, whatever it is, man of the match to me. I'm old school. That's it. Harry, score prediction, mate, for Saturday?
2-0 England. Let's go for that.
2-0 England. You got any goal scorers in mind, mate?
Oh, haven't thought that far. Go on, let's give Harry Kane another goal. Let's give Harry Kane a brace. Go on, let's agree with John. Let's give Harry Kane a brace.
Harry Kane a brace. I'm loving this. As a neutral from Australia, from Sydney, Australia, Tom, what score prediction are you going for on Saturday, pal?
I think it's hard. I sense a lot of confidence there. And if I was betting, I would be betting for England. But I think it's one of those ones. I think Ukraine, just in terms of the story around the Euros and how tournament football works and sort of the drama that will cause, I could see England conceding first. I can see Ukraine scoring an early goal and panic setting in. But I think there is enough about this England team to come back. So I'd say 3-1 England, I think. And with Harry Kane with that goal against Germany, I think it'd be a hard man to stop because Ukraine have got likely to concede goals. So I would go 3-1 England.
Yeah, wonderful. I want to go 3-0 England, me. I can't see England conceding because they've been rock solid at the back. I'm going to go for Harry Maguire to score as well because, for once in his life, he's going to score a header again. He had a couple against Germany. You're thinking, he needs to be working the goalkeeper at the very least. You're thinking, for a centre half, it's really good in the air. He's shocking at headers in the opposition's box, isn't he? But I feel like one's coming. I think he's going to bang against Ukraine. I think Harry Kane. I'm going to go with John, and I'm going to go with Harry. I think Harry Kane for a brace as well, because I think his confidence will be uber and sky high. Listen, I think that's it then, boys. You know, I've dragged it well over half an hour, 45 minutes, as per usual. Luckily, Ben doesn't moan at that. But even though my note says to keep to half an hour, 45 minutes, 55 minutes later, we're still talking. But it's been 55 years of hurt that's finally been banished from England. You know, they beat Germany last night by 2-0. Is it coming home? Well, only time will tell. But hey, this is a golden opportunity for England. I don't think they're going to ever get this opportunity as easy as this again. That's going to come by. Yes, they still got heavyweights like Italy and Belgium in there, but Denmark as well. We can't discard Denmark because the way that they're performing. But this is a golden opportunity for England. Let's hope they can bring it home. Anyway, thank you to John, thank you to Harry, and thank you to Tom. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you for the last 55 minutes or so. Top show, boys, and we shall see you in the next one.